Hello everyone, I'm Dave and welcome to the first of hopefully many flight review videos. In this video, I'm going to be reviewing Air Canada's mainline domestic product on a recent flight I took between Vancouver and Calgary. I'll share with you my experience and opinion on the boarding process, the in-flight service, the aircraft and cabin, how it compared to the return flight that I took a few days later, plus I'll give you some tips along the way and just finish it up with a summary of the experience. Before we jump into the review, if you like this video, please give a click to that like button, please consider sharing it, and please consider subscribing. I had an early morning departure from YVR, the Air Canada 202, which leaves at 7:05 in the morning. I live in downtown Vancouver, so it was pretty easy to hop on the SkyTrain and get to the airport in about 25 minutes.
The next station is Terminus Station, YVR Airport.
I arrived at the airport at about 5:15 in the morning. The A and B gate security opens up at 5:30 in the morning on the domestic side, and the C gate security opens up earlier at 4:30. Security was fairly busy, but the wait time was only about 5 to 10 minutes to get through. Early in the morning, not all the shops and services are open, but there are a few places to grab some snacks, tea, coffee, and even a bite to eat. One of my favorite places that I highly recommend is Rice Tales. They're located in the Alpine Food Court in the Sea Pier. They serve amazing stir fry and I highly recommend them. Now YVR does change out their vendors on a regular basis, so double check that they're still open next time you're in the domestic terminal. The Air Canada 202 to Calgary left from gate C-43, and in that part of the Sea Pier, it's actually quite wide open with a lot of seating available for passengers. I was in zone 3 for boarding and it was pretty quick. The flight actually wasn't that full. There was almost no lineup and I had my boarding pass scanned and I was on my way onto the aircraft in no time. The Air Canada 202 I traveled on was operated by a 30-year-old Airbus A320-200 series. Fin 201, registration Charlie Fox Delta, Quebec, was originally to be delivered to Ansett, Australia, but instead ended up with Air Canada and has been with the airline since January of 1990. In February of 2017, Air Canada unveiled its new livery. This aircraft was still in the old livery as well as the old cabin. The seats were still quite comfortable. The seats had universal power outlets, except it seemed that some of the end seats, the aisle on one side and the one directly in front of me next to the window, did not have its own port. There was the in-flight entertainment system, which I'll talk about in a moment, plus a seat back pocket that had the in-flight magazine, the safety card, the menu, and a couple other items. As you can see, it was a bit of a wet day in Vancouver. We actually left the gate a few minutes early, taxied out to runway 26 left for a westerly departure. And as we were turning onto the runway, we slowly began to move, but what I thought was the takeoff roll was actually just a little bit of power for us to taxi off of the runway.
Ladies and gentlemen, the captain speaking. We were on the runway ready for takeoff. There was a missed approach of an airplane on the north runway, and that caused a delay for our takeoff, and consequently somebody on final air traffic control just asked us to taxi off the runway and get back in the line. So we're currently number 2 to go, and we'll have the flight attendants just remain seated for takeoff, and we'll be on our way shortly. Thank you.
What I really liked about the flight deck crew on this flight was they kept us informed. It was finally our turn to take off after about 20 to 23 minutes. We were back on the runway and in the air for the flight to Calgary. Once we were in the air and the service began in the economy cabin, it was pretty quick and efficient. We had a snack and a beverage service. And as this flight was under 2 hours, the buy on board product was not available in economy class. For business class passengers, a meal is served on this short flight. The crew themselves were friendly throughout the entire flight, from boarding, during the service, through to the arrival in Calgary. It was a really good crew.
Forecast for the morning to be good flight conditions. Crossing the Rocky Mountains, we're expecting a smooth ride home, and nice weather in Calgary.
The in-flight entertainment system on this Airbus A320 was an older model, and I found the responsiveness to the touch inputs slow. As you can see from the timer on the screen, it'll take just over a minute to get to the choices for the new releases. However, there was a wide selection of programming to choose from: new releases, TV shows, audio, music, as well as kids shows. The return flight to Vancouver was about 3 days later, and this was an afternoon departure. This flight was also quite empty, I think a lot emptier than the flight I came out on. The aircraft was sporting the new livery, yet had the older cabin and in-flight entertainment system. However, it was a comfortable flight. The aircraft operating the return flight was a 19-year-old Airbus A321-200 series, registration Charlie Golf India Uniform Foxtrot, fin 455. And finally, my overall experience on these two Air Canada mainline flights between Vancouver and Calgary was fantastic. Boarding at both Vancouver and Calgary was efficient and fast. The cabin crew on both of these flights were friendly, from boarding through the service right to our arrival at our destinations. The flight deck was informative and kept us up to date on the progress of our flight, especially on the delayed departure out of Vancouver. The aircraft cabins were the older style, yet the seating was comfortable. And finally, the in-flight entertainment was slow in its responsiveness to the touch inputs, yet had a fantastic selection of programming. Thank you very much for joining me in this first of hopefully many flight review videos. Again, if you liked it, please give a thumbs up, please subscribe, and share this video. Thank you again for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace and love.
Ladies and gentlemen, information for landing passenger on your chair rack entry development and your seatbelt is fastened. Baggage, including laptop computer, must be safely stowed at this time. Thank you. Et mesdames et messieurs, en vue d'atterrissage, s'il vous plaît, s'assurer que le dossier de votre siège est redressé, que votre tablette est rangée, que votre ceinture est attachée et les bagages, incluant les ordinateurs porteurs, doivent maintenant être rangés de façon sécuritaire. Merci.